Saeed, and this event is designed to give students, especially who are excited about all things science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, to share exactly why they're interested and why they're excited. So our theme this semester is Above and Beyond. So we want to encourage students to think and be passionate above and beyond what is merely taught in class. So what's interesting about our world and universe recently? Join us today as we discover what it means to be in STEM. So our first guest has written for Cartoon Network. Our first guest has written for Cartoon Network, worked as an associate producer in Hollywood, and now he's an intern at the Mount SAC web design team and president of our Computer Information Systems Club. So everybody, please give a warm welcome to my dear friend, Michael Olivier.
More. That was cool, wasn't that? That was fun. I went to my stylist this morning and I told him, I want to look like Steve Jobs, but if he only got paid in cheeseburgers. I went to my stylist this morning and I said, make me look like a lighthouse attendant who dropped out of school to sell turtlenecks. And he said, what is this for? What is this for? And I said, it's for a speech I'm going to do, titled, What is this for? Today we're going to talk about who should study technology. I'm going to tell you guys something right now. According to Harvard and MIT and some other universities who've all done the math on this, if you take everyone that's graduating this year, and everyone that's graduating colleges for the next 3 years, and everyone that's going to be projected to be enrolling in colleges for the next 3 years, by 2021, we're still going to have 2.5 million less people than we need with expertise in cloud computing and cybersecurity. That's not true. We have 3.5 million less people than we need in cybersecurity, cloud computing, and all these other things. Now, if you're anything like me, you're probably thinking, wow, that's half the population of Ireland. That's a lot of people. And if you're not anything like me, that's half the population of Ireland. That's a lot of people. I don't know why I knew that off the top of my head. But the point is this. There is no way, if you have the set of skills that comes with a technology education, that you're ever going to have to worry about where your next paycheck's coming from. That you'll ever have to work in a place like Riverside. Or you'll ever have to like wonder what you're going to do with yourself. That being said, we don't just need 2.5 million of Stephen Hawking. We don't need 2.5 or 3.5 million of Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory. We need 3.5 million Americans. Today I'm going to tell you guys why it's important to start studying this now by talking about first move advantage. Then we're going to say some real-world examples of very non-traditional tech people and talk about the actual demographic makeup of who's in the technology workforce, before finally tying it all together with some stuff I'm about to make up about 4 minutes from now. Let's get started. So the first thing I want to tell you guys about is something called first move advantage. It's not a hashtag, it's tic-tac-toe. You've played this game before, right? Clap if you've ever played tic-tac-toe. That's enough. We got a lot of material. I'm just kidding. Anyone who's anybody knows that making the first move in tic-tac-toe puts you at an advantage, right? Because then the other person has to react to that. First there was nothing, now there's something. It's very similar in technology. Amazon, in 2002, was one of the first big companies to get into cloud computing. Back then it was a $5.2 million industry. Today cloud computing is a $141.2 billion industry, and Amazon leads the market. Because they moved first, and everyone else who came into the party was reacting. And pretty soon, it didn't even matter. Amazon could force people to do stuff. That's a guaranteed win in tic-tac-toe, by the way. Take your phones out if you lose a lot at that game. That's the, because you can't do anything. If you're X, you're screwed. Done. I'm not saying that first move advantage is that simple in real life. I'm not saying that if you start studying now, you'll just know more than everyone forever, because you won't. You'll catch up. A master's degree in technology from about 10 years ago covers the same material you learn in an intro class today, because the stuff changes every day. But if you're interested in not only being the best at something, but being one of the first people to be the best at something, if you're interested in getting ahead of the curve, then it's really important to start studying technology and technology-related things. Amazon kills the competition. That doesn't mean they're going to be number one forever. It just means they have a huge advantage for having gone first. And in a field where 3.5 million people are needed to fill holes, you can have the first move advantage if you start studying tech. That's the first thing for you. That's the first, why should I do this? It's because there's a lot of money in it, duh, everybody knows that. That's why it's so expensive to live in San Francisco. But there's more to it than that. You see, in technology, there's not a concentration you can go to at most schools. You can't go to MIT and study ethical hacking. They don't have a class for that. There's no ethical hacking major at this school, even though Mount SAC has 2 of the top 50 cyber defense teams in the country. Fun fact. The thing about technology is that you can teach yourself at pretty much any pace. When I was in high school, back in 2000, I was huge on designing MySpace layouts. MySpace, for those of you who don't know, is an antiquated term to mean social media. And I learned HTML just in my spare time to try to impress people. With that skill, I got a job here at Mount SAC on the web design team, like 10 years later, just for having been exposed to it before, because there's not a lot of people with this expertise. What I'm saying is, if you can Google stuff, and if you can follow instructions that are written down, you can learn HTML. You can learn how to make a Twitter bot to compliment you and upvote everything you post. You can do a lot of stuff if you have maybe 20 minutes a week and internet access and a computer that works. So, if you have this knowledge and you get into a field where the demand is so much greater than the supply of experts, you can position yourself to get into any sort of level that you want, as long as you expose yourself to it and take some time. And you don't even have to really get a degree. I shouldn't say this in a college campus being recorded by a college professor, but it's true. My bachelor's degree ends with the word studies. It is not a science degree, but I have a certification in some programming things, I have a certification in Linux, and I am super hot on the job market. What's my previous experience, you ask? I wrote cartoons. I'm not a computer guy. But if I can do it, you can do it. You know how I know that? Because I only got up to Algebra 2 in high school. And you guys are smarter than that because you could find this building on the first try. I believe in you. Anybody in this room who's made it to this talk, who has the motivation to hear what people have to say, has exactly the skill set you need to study something maybe once a week. Less time than it takes to go to a class. You don't have to turn anything into anyone, just know the material. And then get a certification and you start pulling in maybe $90,000 by your 3rd year. It's pretty good. $90,000 per year, not $90,000 overall. I know, like, as a writer, sometimes I think like $90,000, that's like my entire net worth, but don't worry about that. So, you'd think, right, knowing this, knowing that there's a really low bar for entry, and knowing that certifications are a thing that don't usually take that much time, you might wonder, why is this field so wide open? And the first thing a lot of people think about when they ask themselves that question is because it's boring. And those people are right sometimes. There's some computer stuff that's super boring. There's also a lot of math and veterinary stuff that's super boring, and writing stuff and literature stuff that's boring. There's poetry that's boring. There's a poem called Boring, and it's the word boring, just with spaces in between it, stretched out for a page. That's, if you ever want to look clever, by the way, and someone's like, what's poetry? It's just prose where the words don't follow a normal paragraph, and they just put it wherever they want. That's poetry, that's all it is. What's satire? Satire is just like real life, but with animals in it. No, this is not a literature speech. We're getting wildly off topic. The thing about the tech industry in general is that it's been on a 15-year trend away from diversity. The year I was born, 1980, the male to female ratio in IBM and Microsoft and some other companies was almost 50-50. It was pretty much right down the middle. And it was people from a bunch of different backgrounds, people from a bunch of different experiences coming into tech. But somewhere, for some reason, for the past 25 years now, the trend has been away from that. And now if you go to Silicon Valley, it's very much a male-dominated industry. And it's very much like offices that are populated by rich white guys who like computers a lot. And like I said at the top of this speech, that's not what we need. We need you guys. I don't mean you guys, but like, we need the people in this room. We need normal's the wrong word, but we need every experience we can have. Because the things you've been through in your life shape the way that you approach problems. It shapes the way that you adapt and embrace ideas. It changes your lens for how you view possible solutions and how you come up with new stuff. So, if we have 3.5 million of the same type of person filling in all these jobs that we need to fill in, then we have 3.5 million of the same answer over and over and over again to some problems. That's where you bottleneck. That's where the flow of information slows down. Sit wherever you want, it's okay. You didn't miss anything good, I promise. That's where the flow of information slows down. That's where progress gets slow. And if you bought the new iPhone, you can see perfect examples of that all over the place. Everyone in Apple's the same, and all their products are the same, and that is not what we need. Why should you study technology? You should study it because technology needs you. Now, historical examples. The very first computer program was written in the 1800s, long before computers were invented. It was written by a woman named Ada Lovelace, or Lovelace if you pronounce it in the English way. And she basically, it was like a bunch of ideas for how to hypothetically control machines to make them do something more efficiently. She didn't have a computer. She didn't know that Russia would pose a serious cybersecurity threat to America across the ocean from her hundreds of years later. She just had an idea, and she thought about it for a while. Let me give you another example. Thomas Edison, the guy whose name is on all my electric bills, invented a light bulb after like 1,000-something tries. Why do we give him so much credit for inventing? It sounds like he failed 1,000 times, right? Albert Einstein didn't come up with stuff on his first try either. But he said the reason he succeeds, and Edison succeeds, and other people succeed, is because they just stick with a problem longer. The point I'm trying to make here is that even if computers seem like something inaccessible and vague, and it's like technology is such a wide field, why would I want to study any of this when I already know I'm good at math or writing cartoons or whatever? It's because maybe you're just not giving yourself enough time to grapple with these problems. Maybe you see some code and it looks impossible and you walk away. I know I have, hundreds of times in my life. But if you don't stay with these problems, then nobody's going to solve them. If we're 3.5 million people away from what we need to fully staff our cybersecurity forces, then we're going to keep having weird elections like the last one. We're going to keep having people infiltrating Facebook and finding ways to get into our American institutions and slow us down. Because 3.5 million people out of however many are in this country, what is it, 700 million? More than that? No, that's almost 1 billion, that's way too much. I don't know the population off the top of my head, but if we can't get a percentage enough to fill these jobs, I think it's because, or I wonder if it's because people don't know that it's so accessible. The thing is this. The information that you need to learn this stuff is out there and it's free. You should Google it at a computer at the school library so it doesn't get traced to you, but look up ethical hacking. Look up ways to keep your passwords and things like that safe. Look up what it might take to get a certification. You'll position yourself better, and with your math or science backgrounds, you'll probably be eligible for some pretty sweet grad schools after you transfer out of here, or do whatever you do after Mount SAC, if you ever leave Mount SAC, unlike me and Brian over there. But, what did we talk about so far? We talked about first move advantage. We talked about how many people we need. We talked about why we don't need 3.5 million Sheldon from the Big Bang theories. And we talked about what you can get if you just look stuff up. Here's a fun exercise. When you leave here, or just discreetly on your phone while I'm not paying attention, look up the phrase Google Dorks. I'm serious. Google Dorks is like a code that the Google search engine recognizes to do more specific searches. And it's ridiculous what you can find on there. Companies have like public records of all their employees' contact information. They're like it's just great. It blew my mind the first time I saw this. What I'm saying is, if you can Google stuff, you can learn how to hack. And if you can learn how to hack and you see how easy it is, you begin to see the importance of cybersecurity. And if you're like me, maybe you have a relative who's a little bit older, who has had a pop-up on their computer, and it said, give me $400 because your computer's broken, and then they pay them. With maybe 20 minutes of reading, that $400 could have been saved and used to buy you a new fidget spinner, or whatever you kids like, Lunchables, whatever. What I'm saying, the point is that the information's out there, but for some reason, it's only a certain group of people in the population who are really embracing technology. And I couldn't tell you why that is. And I know it's weird to hear this from the only white guy who's presenting, who they put at the front of the line to present, oh, we need more diversity. It's like, what the fuck are you doing then? But I feel like, as somebody who works in IT, and as somebody who's president of a school on this campus that specializes in IT, I feel it's my duty to reach out to everyone, because we do need you. We do need 3.5 million people, and it doesn't matter where you're from or what you did before, as long as you love me. No, that's NSYNC. It doesn't matter if you majored in something unrelated. It doesn't matter if you can only use the internet on your phone. It just matters if you care enough to stick with the problems enough to get past the learning curve. Because once you've studied for a couple months, or maybe a year, and you can start leaving files on your brother's computer to remind him to buy you stuff, that's when it gets fun. Now let me tell you how fun it can get. In the 2 semesters I've been back at Mount SAC, I have learned enough that, what can I say? I'm on camera.
I could pause it if you want.
Could you?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Okay.